Welcome back. The set has changed. We mean business at this point. We are having Brenda Murugi on set with me. Brenda is an instructor at St. John's Ambulance, and what we want to illustrate and talk about this morning is choking. How do you deal with choking, be it an adult, be it an infant, be it a child, and how do you know exactly when somebody is choking? Karibu sana, Brenda, good to have you.
Thank you.
I know this is a very basic question, but you know, how do you really identify that somebody is actually choking? And as an instructor and as a trainer, of course, how do you now define choking?
Okay, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.
As I've said, my name is Brenda. I'm an instructor with St. John Ambulance. Now, when we talk about choking, we define choking as what we call obstruction of the airway. And I'd like to start by explaining what exactly is the airway.
Yes.
Because we have this notion where we say, mtu akinyongwa na mfupa ya samaki, tunampatia ugali. Iteremshe chini. Okay, so that is very wrong. Now, we say in our throat, we have two pathways.
Okay.
We have one that is leading to the stomach, what we call the food pipe, and we have now what we call the airway that is leading to the lungs. So when we talk about choking, we are saying that the obstruction is on the side of the airway. So unaona hata ukimpatia ugali, itateremka kwa tumbo, it rarely goes to the airway side. So that is what we define choking as. It is an obstruction of the airway. Now we have two types of choking. We have what we call minor choking and major choking. Minor choking is the most common one that we see, whereby for you to identify minor choking, your casualty is going to be coughing, violently coughing. Your casualty is going to be able to speak, although with a lot of difficulty. Okay, and they're also going to be having difficulty with breathing, although they are breathing. But now when we come to major choking, which is the most serious one, is whereby the casualty cannot cough, the casualty cannot speak, the casualty cannot breathe. So if you're not keen, you might miss it. So the only thing that you're going to see is that your casualty is going to be clutching at their neck, and some of them are going to be pointing towards their mouth. Yes.
In this case, when you talked about ugali and samaki, does it actually work as the best way to just deal with choking for an adult? And does it work for children as well?
Now, that one whereby tunampatia ugali iteremshe, we cannot define that as choking because the obstruction equals side the food pipe. Okay. So unaona hata tukimpatia ugali, it will just iteremsha to the stomach. But when you talk about choking, even if you give them ugali, we are saying that the ugali is going to go to the other side ya tumbo. So hii side ingine bado ya kwenda kwa lungs, there is still a blockage. Yes.
So what causes choking exactly?
What causes choking? Now, between what we are calling the food pipe and the airway, there is a small flap of tissue known as the epiglottis. So automatically, when you're about to swallow something, the epiglottis comes and blocks the airway, so that food does not go down. We say you cannot swallow and breathe at the same time. But you find choking happens when, for example, you're talking as you're eating in a hurry, okay? And when it comes to children, there's this habit that our mothers used to do and our grandmothers, whereby mnafunga mapua, ndio mtoto akunywe uji na mdomo. So you think the baby is trying to breathe and swallow at the same time. So that one is definitely going to encourage choking. Yes.
So where do we start exactly? We start with this is an infant.
This is an infant.
When she or he chokes on milk, then now what is the first step? Because we see sometimes maybe an infant is coughing and the mother's instincts, of course, goes panic immediately. So what is the first reaction that the mother should take at that particular point in time?
Okay, so immediately you realize that your baby is choking, especially during breastfeeding. We say the first thing you need to do is to immediately stop the breastfeeding and prop up the baby. So when you prop up the baby, then now the airway is a bit more clear, and then encourage the baby to keep on coughing. So that coughing is good because it is trying to get rid of the obstruction that is there. So if you see that does not work, the baby is coughing, and you can still see that they are in distress. Okay, so what you need to do, you need to give what you call 5 back blows. Okay, so 5 back blows literally means you hold the baby on the length of your arm. Your baby is going to fit on the length of your arm. Okay, and then we're going to put the head lower than the rest of the body. So here we are working with gravity. Okay, and then we are going to hold the head and tilt it backwards.
Okay.
Now, when I tilt that head backwards, what I have done is I have opened the airway. Okay, and then I'm going to hit the baby on the back 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we say when you're hitting, gonga na nguvu, usimuone huruma. Okay, because we really need to get rid of the obstruction.
Yeah.
So when you're done with the 5 back blows, you need to turn the baby and check their mouth. Remember, when an adult has stopped choking, they're going to tell you, wacha wacha imetoka.
Okay.
This one cannot say wacha imetoka. So you need to keep on checking their mouth. So if you see the obstruction near the entrance of the mouth, we say just pick it out. Okay. What we do not encourage you to do is to put your finger inside the mouth and start doing this. We call it a blind sweep.
Okay.
So when you're doing this, what exactly you're doing is you're pushing it down. Okay. So if the back blows do not relieve, then you're going to put the baby again on the length of your arm. This time they're facing upwards. Again, we are going to tilt the head back so that we open the airway. And then using 2 fingers between the nipples of the baby. This is where we are going to do what we call chest thrust. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, again, check the mouth. If that doesn't relieve, turn them over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so we are going to repeat this cycle until the obstruction comes out. And we always say it is good that as you're doing this exercise, you're on your way to hospital. Remember, their lung capacity is very small. So when they stop breathing, immediately their body is being deprived of oxygen. So we do this as we are on our way to hospital. Afadhali tufike watuambie obstruction imetoka, you can go back home. Yeah, but the mistake that we make is that we want to keep on doing this while we're still in the house. And as you've said, some mothers will panic. Yeah. So what they do, they throw the baby and they run. I don't
They throw the baby?
Yeah, you've never had that?
No.
Yeah, when a mother is panicking, especially when their child is sick, or they can see that they are going, they are almost convulsing, I think it's a way of asking for help. So the first person that they are going to see, they are going to give out the baby, which is a sign of panic. Yeah.
So what happens when either methods don't work? If at all there has been instances where you try first aid at home, but you try with the parts, or the what did you call it?
Back blows.
Back blows, and then you try this one right here between the
nipples.
It doesn't work. Then what other alternative do you have as a mom when performing first aid?
First aid. Now, unfortunately, that is the only method that we have. We have the back blows and the chest thrust. So when you do this 2 times, 3 times, you see it is not working. Again, please go to hospital. At some point, they are going to need to do a surgical intervention, whereby the baby will have to be taken to theater. And remember, this is a case of life and death, because this whole time the baby is not breathing, meaning that there's no oxygen. Okay. Now, when the baby becomes unresponsive, so we have tried, the baby is now tired, they've lost consciousness. Okay. So what we need to do is we need to start CPR. Okay, so you're doing CPR because ideally your baby is not breathing. There's a blockage in the airway. So you do your CPR, and the beauty about it is, as you're doing the CPR, it actually pushes up the obstruction. So after some time, you can be able to see the obstruction at the back of the baby's throat. So if you can see it, pick it out. If you cannot see it, again, do not do the blind sweep. Yes.
Well, now, how about children? Is it the same case for infants? Let's say mtu amemeza pale 10 bob ama 5 bob, and we see this toddlers especially, they love eating a lot of things. They wanapata slippers wanaingiza kwa mdomo. Then let's say they choke on even needles. They choke on such things. Then how do you now perform first aid on toddlers?
Now, toddlers, we categorize them as a child. So children and adults, we deal with them the same way. Okay. So for a child or an adult, we are going to start by giving what we call the 5 back blows. Again, we are going to hit at the back using the heel of our hand between the shoulder blades. Okay, so we are going to hit it 5 times in an upward manner. If that does not work, we come and do what we call the abdominal thrust or the Heimlich maneuver. So abdominal thrust, we are literally pressing on the abdomen so that we can try and push out the obstruction. Now you'll find that the toddler is going to be shorter than you. Okay, so what you're going to do as an adult is to kneel down and come to the level of the toddler. Usipandishe mtoto juu ya meza ama juu ya stool, because in case they lose consciousness and they fall, then it's going to cause an injury. So you as an adult, kuja chini, kuja level ya mtoto, hit at the back 5 times, and then if that does not work, press on the abdomen 5 times. Yes.
Let's assume this is now the toddler. Maybe tunaweza mweka chini, and then now we can illustrate exactly how we are performing the what maneuver? The
Heimlich maneuver.
Heimlich maneuver. Okay,
Yes.
okay, that is, just thrusting the abdomen.
Just thrusting the abdomen.
All right.
Yes.
You can show us how that works exactly. Yes.
Okay. Now, if we assume that
Yes.
this is a child, okay, so we are saying that the first thing we're going to do is to give them 5 back blows.
Okay.
So I am going to support the child like this. Okay, and then using the heel of my hand, I'm going to hit between the shoulder blades. So I hit 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If that does not work, then I come and do the Heimlich maneuver, which is basically, I will do my hand like this, put in my thumb, cover my thumb. This pointed part here is the one that you want to bring it to the stomach of the baby, and then using your other hand, you're going to support, and you press inwards and upwards 5 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. If that does not work, I go back to my 5 back blows. Again, if you do this 2 times, 3 times, the obstruction is not yet coming out, then try and look for help, find a way of getting to hospital. In case my toddler becomes unconscious, I am going to lay them on the ground, and then I'm going to start performing CPR at the center of the chest. Yes.
Does this work for a coin as well? Because sometimes we've heard of cases where if a toddler maybe chokes on a coin, they can poop it out. So do you wait for him or her to poop it out, or what exactly do you do? And the question was, does it really work even on such items like coin and needle? When now, because if you talk about needles, they're very thin and slim. Then how does that work in that case?
Okay. Now, if it is swallowing, and you can be able to differentiate between the swallowing and the choking. Because the choking, you're going to see that your child is having difficulty in breathing. But when it is swallowing, it is good because it is going to go straight to the stomach. So we say what you can do, try and give them something like bananas. So what the bananas are going to do is to push down the stool. Okay? And then you're told, every time your child poops, usimame hapo na kijiti, you need to look for that coin. So you need to confirm that the coin has actually come out of the system. If you think that it is taking time or too long, then you can take them to hospital. Okay, but with it going into the stomach, we are not usually worried. Something like a needle, okay, probably it will cause some injury on the food pipe, but the good thing is that in our stomach we have the hydrochloric acid. So it usually, hydrochloric acid in our stomach is very powerful. It can even a razor blade. When you swallow a razor blade, haiendangi mbali. It is going to be dissolved by the acid. So even the needle can also be dissolved by the acid. But kitu kama coin, 10 bob, amemeza toy, then we need to confirm that it has actually come out with their stool. Yes.
They swallow razor blades as well?
Children are very funny.
So when, in case where we do not see this obstruction coming out, and maybe they're still, let's say the response is that, they're not choking, but we don't see that obstruction. Is that a good thing?
Yes, if we are not seeing the obstruction, it is a good thing, okay, because it means that now they are okay. But we are saying that at the end of the day, we need to make sure that this obstruction has come out. So if they swallowed it, it has to come out through the stool. Okay, so that now we can say that the child is okay.
For an infant, once again, could a failure to burp be a cause of, choking?
Failure to burp cannot really cause choking, because choking is immediate. Ni sayo. If they are feeding and then the food goes to the wrong side, which is the airway, then they are going to choke. Burping, probably what it can lead to is that the child is going to be having a lot of gas, which makes them uncomfortable. Okay, so at some point it aisha too. But with choking, it is immediate. So we need to react to it immediately. So burping, not burping, that does not really contribute to choking.
What if that, that puke-like thing comes out, and then they choke on that? you know, they were burping in that particular point, but now it comes out in form of vomit. They choke on it. Then what do we do exactly? Is it the same process, or what do we do?
Yes, if it is coming out as vomit and you can see that the child is really struggling because they are choking on the vomit, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to give them the back blows. If this does not work, then we go back to the chest thrust. We do it 5 times. But we say if the child is coughing or if the infant is coughing, it is good, because coughing is the body's way of trying to get rid of that obstruction. If you see the baby is not coughing, then that is where we have a problem with. Yes. And ideally, fluids are okay, because fluids, what they're going to do, they're going to cause an irritation. So fluids will not remain there. But you see something like a solid, itabaki hapo. It is going to remain in the airway, meaning that it is blocking air entering and air coming out. Yes.
You said when we're hitting the infant now, once he or she is choking, tusimwonee huruma, tunapiga kwa nguvu.
Yes.
How hard is hard, so that you don't even injure the baby after that?
Now, hard, okay, isn't it? And you may injure the child. But here we are saying, what is our priority? Our priority is we need to get rid of the obstruction. The injuries are going to heal after some time. But if we do not get rid of this obstruction, then the baby is going to die. Yeah. So here we talk about priorities. What is your priority? Because tunasema ukimwonea huruma, then the child is going to, they are going to die.
So are there cases where one should avoid using abdominal thrusts, if at all, maybe there are underlying conditions, or what? Are there points where we should not use that exactly?
The only point with which we do not use the abdominal thrust is if your casualty is expectant.
Okay.
Yeah, remember we cannot do that because we are protecting the baby. Okay. Or if your casualty is an infant.
Okay.
So for the infant and for the expectant mother, then we give the chest thrusts. Okay. But for an adult, for a child, for a toddler, we do the back blows and the abdominal thrusts. Yes. And it is also advisable, if you got to a point whereby you had to administer the abdominal thrust, it is very good for your casualty to seek medical attention. Do not let it end there. Yeah, encourage them to go to hospital so that they can get checked. Yes.
Why do you say, or is it not good for an infant to be given an abdominal thrust? Because for the mom, you've said she's pregnant, of course, there's an infant in there. But for the infant, then what exactly happens when you perform an abdominal thrust on him or her?
Okay, so we have the worry that the intestines, remember the infant's stomach is very smaller, so the intestines haziko huko ndani kama za mtu mkubwa. So when you're doing this, it can cause a twisting of the intestines. Yeah. So when it causes a twisting of the intestines, zikishikana zikunjane, then there's going to be a problem with circulation of blood. So the intestines can rot. Okay, and even that I have said, even for an adult, as much as we're doing for you the abdominal thrust, it is very good for you to go and seek medical attention, just for them to give you a clean bill of health that we did nothing with the intestines. Yeah, but again, it is a necessary evil because we need to remove the obstruction.
We talked about the child's way of dealing with choking is quite similar with how you deal with an adult. But when you talk about abdominal thrusting, how exactly do we now help an adult who is, choking? Aside from just performing the abdominal thrust, if that does not work, what other option do we have? Okay,
so for an adult, we usually start with the back blows. Okay, so we hit at the back. I don't know if I can...
The baby.
The baby. Okay. Yeah. So for an adult, again, we are going to start with the back blows, and we hit in an upward.
Or we can have an adult. One can come. Winnie, you can come. Somebody can come. We are like 10 adults in studio. Yes, we have one.
Okay.
We have one.
Aye.
Maybe I can hold the baby.
Yes, you can hold the baby for me. Just come.
Okay.
Good.
Maybe I'm a cooler.
Good. So if this is the adult that is choking.
Okay.
So of course the first thing you're going to do is to encourage them to cough. So as they're coughing, we've said coughing is the body's way of trying to get rid of the obstruction. So if the coughing does not work, then I am going to stand behind my casualty. My leg is going to be between her 2 legs. Why? So that in case she falls behind, I am able to support her. I'm going to use my hand, put it across her abdomen again in case she falls forward, I can be able to support her.
Okay.
And then I will ask my casualty to lean forward, okay? And then between the shoulder blades is where I'm going to hit 5 times in an upward manner.
Yeah.
Again, usimuoni huruma. Sindio? Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5.
5.
If that does not work, then we go to the abdominal thrust. So as I've said, I'm going to do my hand like this, put in my thumb, cover it, and then this pointed part is the one that I'm going to bring it just above her belly button. Okay, so just above the belly button, put that and then cover it, and then we press in inwards and upwards. Okay, so it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And if you do it properly, at some point you're going to find yourself, you can lift up the casualty. So we are saying uweke nguvu.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What if she gets unconscious in that particular point? Then how does that protocol change?
Now, if she becomes unconscious, then we are going to refer her as a casualty who is unconscious and not breathing. Why? Because the obstruction is in the airway. So for someone who is unconscious and not breathing, protocol will always remain the same. We start CPR. Okay, so we are going to do the CPR. And as I've said, the beauty is, as you're doing the CPR, it is going to bring up the obstruction. So after some time, you're probably going to see it at the back of their throat. If you can, you remove it or you pick it out. But again, do not do the blind sweep because you're going to push it back down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when people often get unconscious, thank you so much. When people often get unconscious, we see people try to just breathe in. You know, how do you call that, say in medical terms? Just helping them breathe, like no police and any.
Mouth to mouth.
Mouth to mouth.
Yes.
So is that recommended as well when maybe, you know, he or she gets unconscious when you're performing this first aid on them? Now, for them, mouth to mouth is not really going to help. Again, why? The obstruction is in the airway. So hata nikimpatia hewa, it is not going to go down the airway because there's an obstruction. For them, we say just give chest compressions only. Yes, without the mouth to mouth. Mouth to mouth is usually given to someone who the airway is clear. Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So should I choke when I'm alone in the house, nobody to help me do this first aids? Then what do I do at that point?
Now, if you're alone and you're in the house, again, number 1, try and cough as much as you can. Okay. If that does not work, then you're going to perform abdominal thrusts on yourself by using either a chair or a bed. So you need to make sure that you're standing against a wall. Okay. And then the chair is here. So you're going to throw yourself very hard on the back of the chair while targeting your stomach. So that is what we called you're giving yourself the abdominal thrust. Yeah, so either you can use a chair or use a bed.
Have you seen cases where maybe somebody dies, ako peke yake na at that point, then you find that somebody died because of choking, and if abdominal thrust does not work for me at that point when I'm alone, of course I cannot tap my back. What other option do I have?
Now, the other option you have is to find your way of either getting to hospital
or you die.
Or you die. Yeah, or you die. Yes, yeah.
I was reading somewhere that sometimes brain damage can occur from choking.
Yes.
How long does that exactly happen, and how true is that?
Very true. Okay, so we say when, again, as I've said, when you're choking, there's an obstruction in the airway, meaning that you're not breathing. Okay, and we say that brain cells start to die 4 minutes without oxygen. Okay, so the longer that this baby or this adult or this child stays without breathing, then the brain cells are going to start to die. And we say brain cells do not regenerate. Your brain is the only part of the body that does not regenerate. So when the baby stays for long when they are choking, brain cells are going to start to die, and then brain damage is going to occur. So it happens. There's you're going to find a baby, probably when they were small, they choked. Intervention was not given early enough. So there was some brain damage. So you find even after that baby recovers from the choking, they are going to be having things like seizures, slow development, okay, because of the brain cells that died during the choking. Yeah.
All right, so as we wind up, what mistakes do you see people, make when performing first aid on somebody who's choking? and that you would say that, no, we should stop with this?
So again, with choking, we say the only mistake that you can make is not giving any intervention at all. Yeah, so you find some people usually delay before giving the help, especially when it comes to infants.
Yeah.
Again, we always recommend that when you're breastfeeding your baby, keep eye contact. Okay, so when you're making eye contact with your baby, in case there is a problem, then you're going to register it early enough, and then you're going to start giving the first aid. But if you don't make eye contact, by the time you're realizing that your baby is choking, it is already, time has gone. Yeah, yes. So with choking, the faster that we intervene, then the better our chances are for our casualty. The more we stay, their body is being deprived of oxygen, which is never a good thing. Yeah.
How about adults?
Again, for an adult, now, adults are very funny. You'll find an adult when they start choking. I think it's because of the shame of it, but an adult will go and hide and try and get rid of the obstruction on their own. So again, the faster you seek help, or the sooner you seek help, then we can be able to remove the obstruction. The mistake that we make is that we do not seek help early enough.
All right, thank you so much, Brenda Murugi, a trainer and an instructor at St. John Ambulance, of course, for making time for us. Kutufunza how to deal when an adult, an infant, or a child chokes. Basically, understanding choking. Thank you so much for making time. That brings us to the end of this conversation and to the end of the show. Do have a good day. Enjoy the rest of your morning. Good morning. My name is Anne Odida.